Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast to inspire you to take your career to the next level. In this podcast, I chat with amazing professionals who are leaders in their field and find out what's made them a success. Many of them have successfully made changes in their careers. They may have changed industry, changed job function, made big city or country moves, or taken the huge leap into entrepreneurship. I also share practical and actionable career tips for those who want to explore what to do next in their career and aren't sure about what steps to take to get moving. Subscribe to this podcast for regular updates or visit me at janejacksoncoach.com.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas introducing Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast that will inspire you to take control of your career and your life. Here's your host, Jane Jackson, career management coach and author of Navigating Career Crossroads. Be prepared to ignite.
Well, hello and welcome back to my Careers podcast. Today I'm interviewing a fascinating digital brand strategist, Dallas McMillan. Now, Dallas is a brand strategist at Influential, the digital agency for professionals. He helps successful professionals to get found online, to build their expert brand and communicate their unique value. Dallas has been building websites and marketing professional firms for more than 10 years, and he started with his own successful veterinary practice group. After years of trying to find the right website design and marketing services for his practice, he ended up founding Influential, a full-service digital agency offering website design, branding, and marketing with an emphasis on lead generation and strategic differentiation. So for the last 5 years, he's been helping other professionals and business owners to stand out as online leaders in their industry. Dallas also hosts Digital Influence, a free live online training event where he teaches people to develop their digital influence. Each Thursday night at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, Dallas shares strategies and tactics to help you use the web to create the change you want to see in the world. Now, we're very lucky to have Dallas on the show today, and so welcome, Dallas.
Thanks so much, Jane.
Wonderful.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that you're on the show. It's going to be really interesting to find out how you transitioned into something so different from digital brand strategy into your own entrepreneurial venture now. So to kick us off, how about let's find out a little bit about the real Dallas McMillan and what you were like when you were much younger. When you were a little boy or when you were a young teenager, what sort of career path did you dream about?
Well, probably my first serious undertakings into the world of career was doing work experience, and I did 2 sessions of work experience, one at a vet and one at a computer shop. So from an early age, I had these split interests of veterinary science and technology, and the computer shop gig was a bit of a dud. I probably should have gone into more of a programming environment, but so the seeds were planted very early on for this split career path.
Yeah, so now what drew you towards the veterinary practice?
I grew up spending a lot of time on my grandparents' farm, which was mostly sheep and some cattle and cropping. And in the holidays, I'd often entertain myself when I was 5 to 10 years old, wandering around the paddocks, collecting skulls or watching animals, and doing all sorts of fun things you get to do on a farm that city kids miss out on. So I had that exposure from an early age to both life on the land and being surrounded by nature, but also by actually getting involved with animals, particularly finding skeletons and things and making collections, starting off that sort of scientific curiosity that was fulfilled when I did veterinary science.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like every little boy's dream, finding skulls and bones and things like that.
Very blood and snails and puppy dog tails. But,
yeah.
And my relatives used to joke then that I would be a vet and how great that would be because they'd save money on the expensive vet. So.
Yeah. Well, especially if you were growing up on a farm as well. And so after you graduated and you set up your own practice, how long were you practicing before transitioning into something so different?
Well, I was in practice for 14 years. I graduated in 2000, and then moved to Cairns for my first full-time job as a vet. I'd done a couple of veterinary nursing and technician type jobs through my degree, and also worked doing research at a couple of university institutions. So my first full-time job was as a vet, and I stayed in the same practice for 14 years. After 4 or 5 years, I became a partner there, so I spent about 10 years as a business owner, and at that point I really started to realise the importance of marketing and found it hard to get reliable info in a small town, and gradually sort of learnt more and more until that was becoming a big part of my day. And yeah, we had probably spent about 10 years working on my own websites and things like that, and then for the last 5 years I've been doing work for clients, and mostly other business owners, and a lot of them have been professionals, and that's where I ended up focusing my efforts.
Wow. This is going to be an interesting interview because I want to find out about the two sides, the two different careers that you've had, being a vet, which is, a fascinating career as well, and then moving on to your entrepreneurial venture as a digital brand strategist. Can you tell me, as a vet, what were the most rewarding aspects of your role?
The strong relationship you build with your clients is really rewarding. I don't think I appreciated that so much at first, but over the years, you really do build a great connection with people. You've also got a lot of respect in the community, and there's a lot of status, I guess, that comes with being a vet, which I hadn't really paid much attention to, but I guess a lot of people, that's part of the appeal for them. I think everyone kind of knows what a vet does, and a lot of people have thought of being a vet. So if I meet someone at a party or a networking event or a family friend, about half of them will say straight away, "Oh, I always wanted to be a vet." So you've almost always got something in common with someone. They've either got a pet or they wanted to be a vet. So it's a really interesting sort of social situation where people feel a lot of fondness toward vets. They've got good PR, so that's a huge advantage, which I really didn't anticipate. And changing careers, it's been interesting that people are much more likely to engage on my veterinary career as a topic of conversation than the IT side of things.
Yeah, well, I think it's because it's sort of warm and fuzzy and kind, and everyone many people love animals as well.
It's a fascinating industry, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I wanted to be a vet, but I couldn't. I didn't have the heart to deal with animals in pain and things." So it's not always that that they feel unfulfilled. Often they wanted to until they realise what vets' careers involved. So that's been interesting. The hands-on component, both surgically and with medicine and other technology that we use, is really interesting. Vets get to do a huge amount in practice, whereas if you're a doctor, you'd pretty much be confined to one area of practice. So you would generally either be seeing patients all day or doing surgery all day. The variety we get as vets really covers all the specialties that a medico would handle only one of. So that's fascinating. And it's not bad being at work and getting to pat animals every now and then. People always think that's going to be a big part of it. A lot of the time they're anaesthetized or we're doing something a bit unpleasant to them. So that's not the takeaway most of the time for us. But again, when I reflected back on being a vet, when I did sell my practice and retire, I really remember that now, that sometimes you'd be dealing with a difficult client and chatting to a colleague, and the whole time you're kind of patting a dog or something. That's something you don't get to do in most most jobs as a way to de-stress. So it's been really good.
Yeah, it's so relaxing having the animals there as well. So was your transition into entrepreneurship and to set up your own digital agency because you were not able to get someone else to build your own website satisfactorily? Is that how it all started?
Partly. I think it was driven by this sort of desire to get hands-on with computers as well. I built a game as a school assignment when I was about 16, so from a pretty early age I was prepared to get in and have a go with things with computers. So a lot of it was just following my passion. the thing was there's just so many aspects to launching and promoting your business online. And, at first it sort of seemed like we just needed a website, and then you need copywriting, and then you need branding. There's a whole suite of things that you need. And it wasn't that we couldn't find good people, it's that we didn't know what we needed. We didn't know what we didn't know. And then we couldn't find someone who did all of them or get the people to talk to each other that well. And, as a small business owner, every expense has to be justified. So starting with someone, not knowing whether they could kind of work with what you already had or whether they'd be reinventing the wheel, that was a really big issue. Often you'd engage someone, they'd sound great, and then really they just dismantle what you've been building for 5 years and start something new, and it's still only half built. So it was as much about finding a one-stop shop rather than that we couldn't find individual people to do the various things. It's just we didn't know who could give us everything we needed.
Okay, and so then you decided, well, I'm going to take care of it myself.
There really needs to be a solution where you can go and have someone help you, at least point you in the right direction and say, look, for the next 2 or 3 years, let's get these things done. And then, as you grow, we'll move on to that. And just someone who can give you the big picture and plan effectively and invest your money at the right stage on the right things. Otherwise, it's easy to spend a lot of money on a website that doesn't really produce the results you need, or to get distracted with social media without having a bigger strategy of how to turn that into new business or new leads.
Yeah. And so with your role now, because obviously you handle every aspect of a digital strategy for your clients, which are the aspects that you enjoy the most?
I really like the strategic and planning side, so sort of the visionary side. I'm very good at holistic thinking and thinking on my feet, so I can usually sort of sit down and, I guess shoot from the hip a bit at first to say, look, here's what we could do, and then to pull back and get more rigorous and actually sort of analyse the data of the business and customer case studies and things like that, and identify, well, what are really their strengths, and then, map out a more proven path based on the data. So that combination of sort of the inspirational brainstorming stuff, which is really fun at the start, but then sort of backing that up with more rigorous work based on data coming from the business, whether that's metrics or feedback from customers or various assets they've got in the business.
Yeah, it must be really enjoyable getting to know your new clients and finding out what it is that they're hoping to achieve from their website and from everything that they want to do on social media and digitally as well. Who are your typical clients?
My most common client scenario is someone who's worked in a larger organisation. Often they've had a business of their own, but it's been a franchise effectively. So they've run a business themselves, but it hasn't been their own ship. It's sort of been part of another organisation, and they've got a vision to do something new and original and go out on their own, and start another new business that's truly theirs. So that's probably my ideal client profile, where they've got the experience of running a business, whether it's like I was in a partnership, and I've run a business, but only in the company of others. So when I want to go and start my own new business, I know roughly what I'm getting myself in for, but there's a lot of things that I do need to learn, but really I want to put my own stamp on it. So that is the scenario that my best clients fall into, where they've done it before, but they've never really done it how they really wanted to do it.
So they're sort of building their brand again, or having a bit more of a strategic focus as to who the clients that they can attract as well through their website.
Yeah, and very often they've already got a personal reputation as part of a larger organisation, but then they want to develop that into a personal brand-based business, or a business that a non-personal brand, but based on a philosophy or something that's sort of greater than just we're another accountant, which a lot of people are perfectly happy with, and that's a viable business model. What we're seeing as the internet becomes the dominant way of interacting with people is that we can choose to work with specialists or people who have some special offering that only they have. Increasingly, people are attracted to and expecting that. So if you're just an also-ran, that's much less attractive.
Yeah.
So, I'm after people who are really wanting to create something that they're passionate about, and often they've put a lot of work into that already, so they're able to get the return on putting their work online. Whereas if someone's really doesn't want to put a lot of time and effort into getting their unique message out there, then you can only do so much by giving them a platform to publish to the web, which is really what a website is. It's a global publishing platform, and you've got to have a good message to make that give you a return.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you're the expert in all things digital, but I want to find out now about Dallas, the man and the entrepreneur. So for you going into entrepreneurship as a digital strategist, what do you find the most challenging about running your own business?
The number of different job tasks that I don't want to do effectively. There's so many admin sides to running any business, as any small business person knows. I was very spoiled in my previous business. We had 20 staff. We had a full-time practice manager and 3 partners, and had a permanent bookkeeper who would come in weekly. So a lot of the things that, as a small business owner, you sort of wear every hat, I hadn't been exposed to, and they're the areas I've struggled most, and sort of have realised the importance of getting on help early or outsourcing, to a bookkeeper or another third party to just keep those things running. So I was very privileged in that we had a full-time practice manager who coordinated running the business per se, whereas as vets we were more responsible for making clinical decisions, and that was a really nice setup.
Yeah. I think that's a thing that most people who go into their own businesses or into entrepreneurship don't realize, is that they're very good at doing what they do. So as the technician, you're amazing at what you can do, but it's everything else about running the business that they don't realize how challenging it can be. I know for myself, the admin side of things drives me crazy. I don't like doing the admin, and it's nice to be able to, outsource it, whether to have someone come in to do it or else go through, maybe an outsourcing site and get a virtual assistant, sort of take some of that pain away. And so you're able to structure your own business so that you've got some good support people around you now, so you can enjoy the fun stuff.
Definitely. At one point I had a VA working, the personal assistant, so working in my office half-time, and that was really the best it's been. I have recently, she'd gone on holidays and had an extended break on a fishing trip, which was a really interesting change of time for her. But since that's meant I'm a bit understaffed on the admin side of things at the moment and feeling the pain. So keen to get back to having someone handle the admin, because if that doesn't work, then everything else falls over.
Yeah. Having to do a little bit of everything gets really tough when it's your own business. So tell me, Dallas, tell me a typical day in the life of Influential. You at Influential. What do you usually do on a day-to-day basis?
I generally start the day with checking email and social media, which sounds like exactly the opposite of what all these productivity and performance blogs tell you to do. I really do need to be plugged in, though. I make a point of sort of identifying what's urgent and what can wait, and then later in the day I go back and trawl through the emails and make sure I get back to everything. But sometimes there's something super urgent, like someone's website's down and it needs a immediate attention, or they're stuck with something. And we've also got alerts running that pick things up and send us a message if there's problems with the server. So a lot of it's just checking everything's running smoothly. And then I use social media a lot in my marketing and just to keep up, like as a listening tool as much as anything. So I do spend a fair bit of time sort of listening, engaging, catching up on comments, and generally aim to publish something at least a couple of times a week, and then I'll be sharing both that and historically published material to social media that I schedule, but I check in and make sure it's relevant and see if there's anything happening that means I should address it. And that's how my day really starts.
And then you're doing this for your own business as well as for all your clients as well.
Exactly. So, and for our clients, we don't do a lot of social media monitoring unless they're sort of having a fully managed marketing campaign. So for a lot of our clients, we've just done design work, and really we've just built their website, and then we train them on how to use their website. So one of my main messages is that the business owner's voice is the one that needs to get out, not a hired social media person. So while we can make the task easier, we can't replace that. And listening and conversation are more important than just publishing stuff. There's a role for publishing and broadcasting, but that shouldn't be mistaken for communication and conversation. So, I'm not there replying to my clients' social media messages, for example, because I don't understand their business well enough to do that. That would be something they'd really need to do, unless they reach the point where they say, "Oh, look, we really effectively need you to supply us with a part-time social media person who's dedicated to our business," then we'd actually step in and be running that. But then we're almost an off-site employee rather than just consulting. So it's quite a different scenario. But for most of my social media work tends to be my own business, whereas the development work tends to be client work.
Yeah, I think that's what most people who run small businesses don't seem to realize, is that if you get someone who's going to be doing a digital strategy for you, they're not going to be chatting on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram for you. You can show them how to schedule all of their posts, or you can do the scheduling. But you're right, it's the communication with the customer that's so important. I know even for me with my social media, because obviously I've got Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, that if I'm not on it and answering people's comments or questions, things just sort of fall by the wayside. It's got to be a two-way conversation all the time, doesn't it?
For sure. And really, these tools are so easy to use. There's no more efficient way to do it than just to get on there and answer it. You can use things like Hootsuite or other scheduling tools to do some management and get some analytics. But in the end, if someone sends you a message, by far the simplest thing is to jump on your phone or your computer and type them a reply. I still get clients who think, "Oh, look, someone sent me an email or a message, I'll send it to my web guy and then he can do something." But that involves so much double handling and miscommunication potential. So I really encourage people, your social media accounts, your blog, they are consumer tools for you to use for your direct voice. By all means, get an editor to help you or have someone help you write them. But, when you wake up in the middle of the night and with that thing you've got to write, you're better just to jump onto your blog and type it and get someone to check it and then post it, rather than try to, manage that as a 2 or 3 person process that you think, "Oh, I'll write an email to my web designer with a Word file attached and get them to upload it, and then I'll check it and make sure," just is so inefficient. And we do need to remember that the lifetime and the impact of things like social media is so short that it's not worth spending any more than a few minutes writing some of these things. It's worth planning, having a big strategy in advance, but you've got to be able to do them in quite an agile way and efficiently. Otherwise, they just get too expensive, because, as you know, there's a lot of back and forth of conversation, and that's where the value occurs. You can't just sort of put a big chunk of stuff out there and think it's going to give you a return. You've got to be present.
Yeah, and consistency, I think, is the key,
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Yeah, rather than having a big burst for 1 week and then nothing for the next 3 weeks, a little bit every day is a good thing. So what would you recommend then, with your experience, between Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram and LinkedIn and all the other ones that I probably haven't even heard of yet? A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have time for the social media." What would you recommend for what type of businesses, the different platforms that would work best?
It really is tricky, and I think the key is getting on there as a consumer early on and finding the platform that appeals to you as a user. A lot of people come to me and they really see this as a marketing solution, but they're totally ignorant of what the platform's actually like, and they're thinking they're going to be able to do something with it that they're not. For example, they'll be able to set up a Facebook page and pump out ads, and the people will be interested in receiving that, and it will be like free marketing. And it just doesn't work that way. And if they'd used Facebook as a user for a month before coming up with that plan, they realise that they're just wanting to spam and that no one would be interested. So, I think go and make a private account, like a personal account, at the top 4 or 5 social media channels, and get a feel for how they work. And it might be that quite quickly you think, look, Twitter I just don't get. That's a very common reaction. What's really valuable is getting some friends on a specific channel. So go where people where you can build some relationships on existing foundations, because having conversations and playing with people that you already know is a much faster route to developing fluency with these tools than trying to invent it from scratch or use it as some sort of marketing tool. They're primarily produced for consumer use, and then the business users sort of play on how consumers use them. So you need to understand and at least be literate in what they are and how they work and how you use them and what you like and don't like and what other people like and don't like. If you sort of think, I'll go and use LinkedIn and do X, Y, Z, and you really haven't used it as a user, then you're likely just to annoy people. And we've all been spammed on these various networks by people sending out a LinkedIn email to 1,000 people. That's totally unwelcome. So you've just got to spend some time at the party before you try to market there.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've been using Instagram, and that's been confusing me a bit, because sometimes you post something and then you get spammed by so many people. Then I spend ages trying to block people, and I'm thinking, why are they even there? So it really is a matter of getting to know each one. So it's good to have someone like you, Dallas, to be able to explain each platform and say how you can actually use it, and at least you can guide your clients in the right direction. So tell me, Dallas, for someone who wants to become a digital strategist, for example, what advice would you give? Say if they were just leaving uni or leaving high school, or what sort of training or qualifications would you recommend?
Learning to become very fluent with the tools that you use daily as a user, I think is really useful, and talking to people and business owners about what their goals are is really useful as well. So there's often a disconnect between the marketing side of things, where it's all hype and rah-rah and it seems like everything's easy, and the business side of things where the client's needs are quite distinct from the technology you'll use to deliver them. So having a background in business, or talking to friends or family who are in business and understanding what they're trying to get done and seeing how the tools can help you pair those up is really useful. Look, there's some great tertiary and sort of third-party training programs that are specifically designed for marketers that are increasingly moving toward a digital component. So often those formal training, the underpinnings of marketing theory are very sound, even though they might seem a bit out of date. Having a really good basis in marketing is important, and I spend probably an hour or two a day reading basic marketing stuff, which it wouldn't matter if I was using social media or direct mail or sign writing, the same principles apply. And I think just understanding the marketing and psychology are really important. There are some popular sort of online marketing programs. The most famous is probably the Digital Marketer platform, which is digitalmarketer.com. They've got a couple of certification programs for things like ads management and lead generation that look excellent. And I've done other parts of their training. I haven't done their certification, but that would be a great place to start. And Google AdWords has some excellent training specifically geared toward managing AdWords, but again, it's got marketing fundamentals that are an excellent both training and also certification that let you be certified as an agency if you've got those skills. So they're the places that I would start in a nutshell.
Oh, there's an awful lot to learn, isn't there? So you've got to have a passion for this
It
to be
is
able to get
never
into
ending,
it.
really, and
Yeah.
I will add that it probably looks like an easy job, but just keeping up with the technology is incredibly demanding, and even within a very narrow field, like my background when I started this was in search engine optimization, and you could spend 3 hours a day just staying current with that, and it all becomes irrelevant very quickly, and that's frustrating. That's something I kind of miss with veterinary science. The anatomy doesn't change week to week, whereas Google does. So that is a big challenge, that there's a lot of learning required just to stay current.
Yeah, I think probably the easier option would be just to go to digital influence and get you to do it for us, Dallas. Right?
Yeah, so and that's one option, is attend my free webinars. We do them on Thursday night,
Yep.
and really we just walk through the basics from, try and do it jargon free so that it's coming from a business owner's perspective. Part of my value is I don't have a tech background. I'm not an IT geek. I've sort of had to learn it as a business owner and apply it to my business. And while I've dived into the technical and theoretical side of things, I bring it back to the business use. So that's a great way to get started and see whether it's something that interests you.
Yeah, well, I think that's so good because coming from your background, it means that you'd be able to make everything very simple for those who are non-techie to understand. So if someone wanted to find out more, Dallas, where can they reach you and where can they find out more information about you?
I've got 3 main sites. So digitalinfluence.com.au is our training site, and people are welcome to go there and sign up to join our free webinars, and we've got a lot of online training and articles there that can help people with marketing their business online, and it's focused on professionals, but really we're just aiming for professional marketing for businesses and entrepreneurs as well. So whether you're building a personal brand or starting a new practice, that's a good place to go for some do it yourself and educate yourself information. And then my main agency site is influentialdigital.com or .com.au. It's where we offer branding, marketing and design services, and you can make an inquiry there. And my email is dallas@influential.com.au.
Okay, and what about your Twitter handle, Dallas?
It's Dallas McMillan with an underscore at the end. So unfortunately, there's a large Scottish legal firm called Dallas McMillan who went and stole my handle, and I'm pretty sure I'd beat them to Twitter, but I started with a different handle. It was Ken Vet, and I've kind of wish I'd got my got Dallas McMillan now, but that's one of the really important aspects of being online is getting in reasonably early so that you can at least get your preferred name, username on things like Twitter.
Yeah, well, at least you've got Dallas McMillan underscore. Just imagine with my name, Jane Jackson.
Yes.
So common. It was impossible to get that. So I've had to change it around a little bit, and I've put Jane Career Coach. There isn't another one of those. But I just can't get Jane Jackson for anything. And I tried to get, at one stage, janejackson.com, but somebody has parked it and is now charging a fortune for anyone to buy it. So there's another business in itself, just parking other people's names,
Yes,
especially
for
if
sure.
they're common names. Okay, so to reach you, Dallas, it's digitalinfluence.com.au for your training. Then influentialdigital.com.au, which is your main site. And then it will be dallas@influentialdigital.com.au to email you. And your Twitter handle is Dallas McMillan _.
Correct.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm glad I've got all of those right. So it's been so good talking to you, Dallas, and finding out more about your business, and such an interesting change from veterinary science into a digital marketing agency. I think that's one of the biggest career changes that of any of the people that I've interviewed so far. So that's been fascinating. And it just goes to show that whenever you go to through high school or you go to uni and you take your degree, it doesn't mean that's the end. That's what you're going to be doing. I think your careers evolve over time, and really, with the way that things change, and especially within the digital space, there's always so much to learn, and maybe in another 2 or 3 years there'll be a completely new career that's copped up as well.
Definitely, and that was one of the reasons why I chose to make the change. I'd been doing the same job basically for 15 years, and while veterinary science isn't going to disappear, I really wanted to future-proof my skills and be up to speed with some of these changes going on, and I thought that the digital sphere is a great space to get that, and it's been great, and I think there's lots of ways that I can combine the two careers in the future. But for now, I'm really bedding down the tech side of things, and that's been very rewarding.
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting to follow your career journey and your entrepreneurial journey too, Dallas. So thank you so much for coming onto the show today. It's been wonderful talking to you. And for anyone who wants to find Dallas, it's influentialdigital.com.au. Thank you so much, Dallas.
Thanks so much, Jane.
Okay, bye.
Great talking to you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejacksoncoach.com.